Welcome back to the second episode of Resident Skeptics, where we now have video.
That's exciting.
Thanks to Jordan, my co-host, and we have a special guest today, Isaiah.
Hello.
Jordan, you know Isaiah from church, right?
Yeah, so honestly, I feel like we barely know each other. Like, we met, once.
Twice. This is
twice.
the third time I've ever seen you.
Yeah. And then I think we were talking, it was a group discussion, talking about abortion, and then we ended up talking for 30 minutes afterwards and realized that we had a lot of similar views, which, I'm going to be honest, I was surprised to figure out you were a conservative, because most people who are black tend not to be conservative. Nope. So I was super surprised, but delighted at the same time. So
that was your entire stereotype.
Yes. No, he was, I completely stereotyped him 100%.
Oh,
totally.
I always announce it too. I'm conservative, by the way.
It's a part of on your name tag too, maybe. I don't know. But we ended up having a really good conversation, and I tell you all the time, I plug our podcast anytime I can. I'll just literally plug it.
Jordan has more places to go than I do because I work remote and at home, and so people I play, I don't really run into people that much.
Yeah.
Jordan's the social one. She's the social butterfly in this group here.
Yeah, no, it's true. And, church, I'm kind of everywhere. So I plug the podcast, and you seemed interested, and I was like, oh, we should really have him on, because I think he has some really good views, and we've talked a lot about the black community. We have the audacity to, despite not being black. We decided
Shame on both of
you. we dared to talk about black issues, not being black. But I was like, I bet you Isaiah has some unique insight into this, and more kind of, I guess, not the psychology, but what keeps the black community where they are? What does that really look like for them to try to get out of it? Because we're on the outside, and we're like, dude, it's super obvious these Democrats they've just ruined your cities, saying that Black Lives Matter and all these riots, and they say how much they care about you, but there's billions of dollars worth in damage all over the United States. So we don't want to talk all about just black issues. We think you're more than just a black conservative, Isaiah. But I thought we could start off with that. Actually, hang on. I'm going to go back.
We should get off getting to know him a little bit. A little bit introduction. They know us here.
Yeah, that's true. We've already talked for now a couple of hours at this point. We've kind of
couple of hours. Our first few episodes were.
No, I'm talking with Isaiah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
But for the sake of the episode, so you came to Charlotte area in North Carolina.
So I moved. So I'm originally from New York, and that's when I was a Democrat liberal.
Which part of New York?
Upstate New York. So I was in between
Corning,
Rochester? In between Corning and Rochester. So
I used to live in Rochester, actually.
Yeah, it's a crap hole.
Oh my gosh.
So then we moved down for family, and then we lived in Burke County, so a very small conservative Republican area. And then that's when I really got exposed to conservative values. And then 3 years ago, I moved to Charlotte for school.
Okay. So what threw you through a loop the most, getting exposed to conservative values?
Probably just realizing that they really don't care about race, because the left, they portray that's all the conservatives care about. It's we got to minimize the minorities. We have to keep them shut. White power and all this bull crap that they throw at you.
Yeah, because that is the one thing I think is interesting to figure out is you started off liberal. And did you start off liberal just because that's all you kind of knew?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest factors that play into people's political views is where you live. I always was pro-life, but as far as everything else, I thought Trump was a racist. I was pro-gun control. I was pro-taxing the rich. Everything besides pro-life was the only thing I was not liberal with.
Now, was the area you lived in, was it more city or more country?
More city.
It was more city. Okay. That's something else I tend to find when talking with people is they live in the city and they're for gun control. And I mean, the police are 60 seconds away.
Yeah, and then you look at Chicago and then it's well, maybe you need more guns.
Well, they have pretty tight gun control.
And they also have the pretty highest gun violence.
Yeah, which is insane because, we had that shooting that was kind of outside Chicago. Correct me if I'm wrong. We had that shooting, which was horrible and tragic. But there's shootings that happen all the time in Chicago where young black people are dying. That was actually one of the things that really made me upset in 2020 during the whole Black Lives Matter movement, was they were just talking how much they cared about black people. And then I think on July 4th, they had all these young kids, they got shot up, these young black kids, and the media had nothing to say.
Yeah. Black on black violence. You can't talk about that.
Yeah.
Then it goes against, it's like, are majority white people killing black people? No. Well, then crap. We can't say white people are racist. We can't say the police are after us.
Now, did you, because I've seen some different videos where like there are some Democrats / liberals that genuinely believe that conservatives are racist. Did you ever have any of those feelings?
Yeah. I thought, I fell into that too. I thought everyone was like, if you're Republican or conservative, you must be racist.
You have to be.
Mm-hmm.
And were you ever able to build any logic behind it, or it was just a point that you repeated?
See, I don't know.
It's okay if you don't. I was just curious regarding that.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's okay. But tell me a little bit. So you were liberal and then you became conservative. Mm-hmm. Talk about kind of that in between of like, what was kind of not the red pill moment, maybe it was multiple red pill moments. What kind of started moving you?
Oh, I remember the exact moment. I lost a debate about gun control.
Oh.
We've just moved down from New York to North Carolina. I was in high school and we were doing some like argumentative paper. So then our teacher was like, well, let's do debates too. So then I took gun control and I didn't know much about it. So when we got up there in front of the entire class, we started debating. And then I didn't know what the term semi-automatic meant. So I thought, semi-automatic, instead of it being fully automatic, it maybe shoots 4 or 5 bullets. And he humiliated me. So instead of taking that and victimizing myself, I took that as an opportunity, like, well, maybe I don't know everything. So then that night, I did research, and then I found some political commenters. And from then on there, I was like, I've been wrong about a lot of things.
So did that kind of start that journey of looking into all the other stuff, maybe?
I was like, well, if I'm wrong about this, well, then I must be wrong about that. And then, YouTube, clickbait. So I see one thing. I was like, oh, well, maybe I'm this too.
Yeah.
And then I found out. I was like, you're actually conservative.
Okay. So a gun debate was what opened the floodgates for you into a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And then you just found yourself being challenged on more stuff as you kept looking into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, the thing that's hard for me with, I would say, I go with leftist, the term leftist before liberal, is that leftists are hardly ever willing to have a conversation.
Right.
Like, even if they're wrong and they kind of know it, they just won't embrace it. With liberals, I feel like you could potentially talk to one a bit more and you could have a little bit of more like, okay, we can kind of work this out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But with the current culture that we have, like, you can't have any conversation. No. Like with Roe v. Wade, like we both like to hawk and look at we like to look at social media and see what's happening. And you just could not have any sort of discussion. There was no discussion. With those who were for abortion, they would just call you a bunch of names and say that you hate women and kind of a bunch of ad hominem attacks. And so that doesn't apply to just abortion. It typically applies to a lot of other arguments too.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's always identity. Like with abortions, like we can't say anything just because we're not females. Or on other issues, like when it comes to race, you guys can't talk about it because then they're like, well, you're not black, so you can't. There's no way you can understand what we go through. It's like, well, when you build like an identity argument, there's no room for improvement. And then we're just stuck in this never-ending circle. It's like, well, what's the right way to do? But you can't say anything because you clearly don't know the right way. And it's just, well, what do you know? Well, you don't know either. So it's frustrating, but I mean, I think now we're coming to a time where people are realizing the identity argument isn't working anymore. It's like, no, I can still have an opinion.
What do you? Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna go on with it a bit more. I think if you've listened to I think it was in Jordan Peterson's debate. He had one with Dr. Eric Michael Dyson. I don't know if you've seen that one, but they kind of go back and forth on it. And Peterson's like, how do you want me to account for the privilege that I've received? Because I'm not privileged in every area. Right. So like, how do you even work that out in even a percentage And it's just, I think it varies too much. I think you mentioned before the show that you had an occasion where somebody assumed that you were white.
Yeah. So my
was talking to
actually tell us that story.
Finds out you're not white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were in class in a Zoom meeting, and I think we were it was about cultural appropriation or something. And I was defending it. I was like, no, you can't always assume someone's appropriating culture when you don't know their actual intent. And then she was like, well, what do you know? You're just a white male. But it was on Zoom, so she couldn't see me. I didn't say anything to her. I just turned on my camera. And
it's like, oh, shoot. And what did she do after that?
It took her a minute to realize. But then she just reverted to, like, instead of, I can't use white male privilege, I can still use male privilege. There's no way you can understand. So
yeah,
but male's not a culture.
No.
It isn't.
You don't even know if I'm male, too. I might identify as something else.
There is toxic masculinity that could be considered a culture. I don't know. I'm just trying to defend a little bit, just to play devil's advocate.
Yeah, there's. I mean, I guess what I would even consider toxic masculinity, I don't even like it. Like, there are like these like hyper male individuals that really just. I feel like it normally revolves around sports and working out.
It's kind of like the jock alpha male type.
Yeah, but they try too hard at it.
Well, that's me. Like so I went to the gym yesterday, and there was a guy. I am not even kidding. You know how sometimes I like flex in the mirror a little bit? Mm-hmm. Okay, this guy. This was not just a little leg flex. It was like a full. And I was like, I almost wanted to come up to him and just like flex with him just to see what would happen.
You should. You should do it with him.
I should have. He would have been so embarrassed. But the fact that he's just doing it so openly, like he wasn't even hiding it, which I'm glad he didn't, because I think it's hilarious.
Getting embarrassed could completely depend on the person.
Right.
Maybe
he could totally be like, "Oh, you're looking really good. Like, let's change the way you're posturing, and now you can show this muscle off better than the others." Because I was messing with my brother because he's been working out. He just turned 18, and he's been working out for probably the last 2 years. Really, really strict regiment with my parents, and as they gotten back into shape, and I mean, he is physically really, really doing really well.
He's sculpted.
He's ripped.
Oh yeah, and he found that as he's admiring himself, he found that posing consistently with his right arm muscles were getting more and more defined.
So
and his left arm wasn't. So now he's got to balance it back out.
Yeah. That's so funny.
But it's like he's found you literally have to work at it if you want your muscles to be defined. So you could have somebody that gets embarrassed and runs off. You could also get somebody that starts to teach you how to pose.
Maybe I should ask him for some tips. I don't know, but he was going for it. But there are those types of males that are, I'd say, kind of the shallow, like, definition of a male that's like strong on the outside but
insecure on the inside.
Yeah.
It's like their like entire like atmosphere around them is I feel like the my dad can beat up your dad type of vibe, and that's kind of what I get from them. And I wouldn't call them alpha males. I feel like it's just a it's just a persona they put up. I don't think that they are the actual we'll say alpha males.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's definitely just an act. I think
they're putting on airs.
They are. That's a complete tangent.
Get used to tangents. This is a discussion.
Yes.
Okay. So school, you had that interaction.
Mm-hmm.
She defaulted to male privilege.
Yeah, and then it just kind of faded off. The rest of the conversation, it was like I made my point. She didn't take it. She just wanted to keep victimizing herself and just exclude me from the conversation. And then class is over. Mm-hmm. Next class, she sat farther away.
Yeah, I would probably be a little embarrassed too.
No, she didn't sit far away. Sorry, I don't think she actually showed up because it was on Zoom. But
okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but tell me. So here's the thing. I guess I wanted to know a little bit more about was, what do you think it will take for the Black community for their eyes to kind of be opened? Like or do you think it's already happening where, if 2020 wasn't enough, of their businesses getting burned down,
right.
What do you think it will really take for them? Because you've kind of been in that world a little bit, and so you have a better understanding than we do.
So I think only some will actually have that self-realization, and I think it is starting now. I think they're realizing that the left and the Democratic Party aren't really helping them. and they're seeing the results from like what Trump did for the black community. And I like only a couple though. I don't think majority of them are going to, because once you're put into this mentality of like victimhood and that the system is against you, you're kind of stuck. So it took a lot for me to get out, and like it's unfortunate, but like it is hard for someone to like go through that mindset their entire life is well, I need government assistance. They're after me. The police are after me. No matter what I do, I'm just going to be a black man in the streets. It takes a lot to realize like, no, you need to put on your big boy pants and you need to go do something. So I think over time, progressively more and more will slowly get to the conservative side, but there's always going to be a proportion there. Like, no, we're still victims and we're still stuck here.
And the whole victim mentality, like, does it feel real? Like, do you feel like everyone really is against you? Like, is it something that you really buy into?
When I first was like a liberal, I thought the same thing, but now it's like, there's no way you can like believe that everyone's against you. That's at least how I look at it now. Is I've had a conversation with someone, I can know if they're actually against me. I can't just assume at least a system too. Like, how can you assume an entire system is against you?
Yeah, and what's the system too?
Yeah, I feel like life would be a lot worse if everything and everyone was actually against you.
Right. So it's frustrating, but no, I don't think that way anymore. At least, I mean, it is a mindset though.
Was there an initial fear coming down to North Carolina, which is pretty half and half,
right?
Red blue. Was there an initial fear with the cops that you could encounter down here?
There was a fear with the racial slurs. I was afraid
okay.
of.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was the first time I was called an N-word too. It was down south.
Really?
Yeah, but it was weird. It wasn't like, I don't think he meant it as offensive. I mean, it's an offensive word, but I don't think he really like realized what he said. But as far as cops, I was always afraid of them too. But then I took a criminal justice class, and he was a cop, and that really changed my mind too on them. I mean, I understand the fear, but you just can't assume the entire police system is after you. Because like there are examples every day of police protecting black people, and there are black people in the police.
Right.
Yes. I used with my work. There was a black cop that I interviewed, married to an Hispanic woman who was a police officer in New York, and apparently they had to learn how to climb like the Brooklyn Bridge to stop jumpers.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So that was also really eye-opening too, like just the amount of work that they put in. And I've also had interviews with other police officers, and those were really eye-opening. Mm-hmm. But you talked a little bit about assumptions, right? We make a lot of assumptions about people.
Jordan made one.
I was about to say, I made an assumption about you, and I feel so bad about it.
It's normal. It's just, that's the reality. Everyone just assumes. I mean, stereotypes have some truth in them. So.
They do have some truth in, like, I think there was a higher chance of you being liberal than there was of you being conservative, I would say. So I think I was and when you don't know somebody either, because this is our third time meeting. Yeah. I just was like, well, I don't know where he's come from, so I didn't want to say anything that I want to like ease myself into talking to anyone that has like a different point of view.
You were very respectful too.
I tried.
I should have acted like I was a liberal though. I should have
just to throw me off. But we make a lot of assumptions, and I feel like there's a lot of assumptions that if you're white, you must be super privileged in every way, and if you're black, there's no way you can have any sort of privileges, which is always been fascinating to me, because my dad, very interesting man, he was born blind in rural Texas to an abusive alcoholic father, dirt poor, worked in a motel at 7 years old, blind, bullied at school. White guy though, my dad's white, my mom's Asian, dad's white. And so he always brings this up to people, and because he's been called like, you have white privilege, and he's like, no. He had to work pretty dang hard to get where he was. And so to only measure somebody's privilege based purely on skin color with no other factors.
Racism in itself, but they want to say that.
No, and that's the thing that's really interesting that I might want to get your thoughts on is, do you feel like there's any, I guess, racism towards white people, like even from the black community, or even just from, white people themselves hating hating themselves. I mean, what's your
Absolutely.
thoughts?
I think, yeah, absolutely. Black community goes after the white, even the white community goes after the white
That's
community.
what I was.
I just love hearing like a liberal white woman talking to a white man, like your white male privilege. It's like, you're a white woman too. Don't you have it too?
Yeah, you got to take that one out of the equation.
Right. No, absolutely. I don't want to just blame the black community, but it seems like they do have a significant distaste for the white community. And I mean, some of it I can understand, like when you look at it historically, like, yes, your ancestors may have been enslaved. Yes, that happened too. But like, did that person do something to you? No. Well, then treat them with integrity and respect. So
yeah, that's kind of been an interesting one where the left has really just brought down like these sins of your forefathers and
right.
foremothers. Like you're still guilty of them, even though you committed nothing of the sort. I'm like, how do you go about reversing that?
It's just mentality. Like, they have to realize they didn't do something to you. You're not a slave. You weren't living during Jim Crow. You cannot truly understand what it's like to be oppressed, especially in this country today. So instead of attacking them, work with them. Like, I've always had the mentality that, you know, everyone just wants, I assume the best out of people. And my mother's white, my wife's white. Like, there's clearly good examples of white people. I can't just say the entire race is after me. Otherwise, I did a bad choice in marrying.
Well, you take away people's individuality when you say all one group is this way and one group is that way. That's kind of what the left wants to do. They kind of just want to put people in these groups. And to a certain extent, it's almost kind of, I know we kind of brought the example of like, I just assumed that you were liberal, but they've kind of already indirectly breeded it into us of like, well, this one group of people thinks this way and this group of people thinks that way, where at the end of the day, like, we should look past skin color and just be like, you can have your own thoughts and beliefs. And I feel like when someone who's not supposed to do it, who's like, we expect you to be leftist or we expect you to be liberal, like, you're accepted up until you change your mind on things that they agree on. And then suddenly, well, now you have some sort of internalized racism towards yourself. Yeah. And it's because your mom is white, and like they'll find examples. Yeah, they'll pull at anything that they can. And the second thing too, that I think on a broader scale, not just with race, worth talking about is this dang victimhood mentality where everyone thinks they are a victim of, like, they'll make the smallest thing in their life, like, I'm a victim of something. And it's just permeated, like, everything.
Yeah, and they blame it on something so broad as, like, the system. It's like, the system's after me. What part of the system? I don't know. But I know it's after me.
And you just avoid taking responsibility for any decisions.
Yeah. It's bad.
Was there anything before your transition to more of a conservative outlook on life? Was there anything that you assumed was oppressing you that after kind of changing your outlook, did that immediately change for you as you realized that, you know, the system wasn't after you or you weren't a victim?
So before I had my realization, I think I thought the system was after me. I thought I was going to be limited on my ability to, like, grow career-wise. I thought the police were after me. I used to be terrified of the police. Would walk into a gas station. I had one police officer try to buy me a candy bar. I was so scared. I was like, no, it's okay. Just stay away from me.
Wow.
So, yeah, when you grow up in an environment where they tell you that, you believe it. It takes a lot of humility to realize, like, you might be wrong.
And so coming out of that, do you feel like quality of life or certain aspects of life have improved after realizing that you're not being held down? Right.
Well, I'm no longer in, like, this defense mode anymore. It's like, I know the police aren't after me. Are there some examples of bad police officers? Absolutely. But I know the system isn't against me. I know the government, it depends what part.
The system's only going to get
who's in the government isn't against me. I know now, like, just because they're white, they're not against me. They're not going to be racist. Like, I can walk freely. Like, in my high school class, I was the only black guy, and I didn't realize that it was a smaller like high school, but I didn't realize until like literally graduation. I like when we got the yearbook, I was like, oh my goodness, this whole time I've been.
You get that big group photo of everybody up there, and you're like, oh.
I was like, oh snap, I didn't even realize that. So yeah, it happens, especially within the Black community. There's a lot of people that just think every system, every person's against them, and there's nothing they can do.
I think the thing I'm learning here, and that's the perspective that Connor and I miss, is that it really is a bondage, I think, like a mental bondage that just people talking about it, sometimes it takes a little bit more to kind of break through. And to a certain extent, like you kind of alluded to it, but there's some level of like freedom to realizing that you're not in bondage and that you do have pretty much the same freedoms that everybody else does. And your ability to move up in the world is based on your own merit. And the left hates merit because they just want to take care of you. Right. They kind of want the Black community to be in bondage to them.
Oh, yeah, social welfare. Yeah.
They don't want to take care of you. They want you to be they want you to rely on them.
It's a codependency. It's like you need me to pay for your housing, your food, and your just quality of life, and we need you to vote for us. And it's just every time you gotta vote for them. They're gonna pay for my housing. They're gonna pay for this. They're gonna pay for that. They're gonna pay for my school. I have to vote for them. Yeah.
So it's a type of bondage, and the left does it with other things too. I think with millennials, like no matter moving away from race, no matter what, they're trying to keep all of them in bondage too. I think there's definitely a move, at least in universities, towards socialism, which
free education.
Yeah, free education.
Nothing's free. Nothing is free.
There ain't no such thing as a free lunch.
Nope.
Ain't no such thing.
No, somebody's paying for it.
Always. But I got to ask a question that is completely off topic. 2024, who do you want to run for the Republican ticket?
I think the best candidate would be DeSantis, because as much as I appreciated Trump's policies, he didn't win over the moderates or the independents, and we really need that this coming up election. I get it, like they're just tweets. He's just a person saying a joke, but some people take it seriously, and this next election is going to be very, very important. And I think we need someone that is tough on policy like Trump was, but someone that is more likable. So I hope DeSantis wins. However, if Trump runs again, I do not see in the primaries DeSantis beating him. Maybe if they team up.
I might disagree a little bit.
Really?
I don't know that DeSantis would run if Trump does, to be honest.
Think so either.
I think here's the thing, like here's my thought, all right? Hear me out. We are in 2022 right now, which is worlds away politically for 2024. So I feel like DeSantis has a chance as long as he continues to do what he's doing and win over people's minds. It's very possible by the time that 2024 rolls around that DeSantis is going to be more prominent than Trump, and that people are going to want to vote for him if they're seeing what he's doing in Florida. That's one of the best things that DeSantis has going for him. He's like, look what I did. Look what I did in Florida. Now see what I can do for the entire country.
I can see that with the general election. My biggest concern is the primary. Every candidate has their loyalists, but it seems like Trump has a bigger population of loyalists, especially within the Republican Party. Like I saw one poll that's like, "Are you Republican or are you a Trumpster?" And it's like, I think it was like 60% of them like, "Yeah, we're Trumpsters." So I hope that DeSantis does win the primary, so that way I know and will feel more confident for the general election. If Trump wins, I'm scared we'll just get another 2020 repeat.
Yeah,
especially if Hillary decides to run, it'll be deja vu.
Oh my gosh, Hillary is too old.
Can you imagine if it's Trump versus Hillary again?
I'm scared though it'll be someone more likable within the Democratic Party. Like if Tulsi Gabbard runs, I'd be concerned.
They'll never let Tulsi Gabbard run.
No, they won't let her run. She's too central.
You don't think so?
No, they're too crazy at this point.
That's why they cut her out. She's too based.
That's true. I think they're realizing though how far, like, because Biden is as far as left now even though he wasn't in his past, but
he isn't left though, technically speaking.
Isn't.
Yeah. Well, he's being puppeted at this point. Like,
yes,
he's just appealing to a base.
Yeah, but his policies are left though.
Okay. Sorry, continue.
So, DeSantis would be ideal. In the primaries though, if Trump does run, I agree with you. I don't think maybe he won't run. If he does, he'll probably come in second. And if he does win, I just hope Trump's ego doesn't get involved and pull a Teddy and run as a third party and just ruin the Republican
just
vote.
Completely split it. Yeah. I feel like it's impossible to separate Trump's ego from his personality at this point. I think it's
possible. I think that's probably the same. I just feel like DeSantis, I feel like there's two different types of Republicans. There's the Trumpers, the really dedicated ones, and then there's the ones that voted for Trump but weren't like a huge fan, but it's like, hey, he's better than the other guy, right? I feel like DeSantis could potentially bring those two together. Those two different groups of
as long as Trump doesn't run as a third party.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm not concerned with DeSantis in the general. If he wins the primaries, then I would be surprised if he lost the general, no matter who the DNC candidate is.
Yeah.
My concern is the primaries.
Okay,
it's exclusively Republicans voting for this.
Yeah.
Because love him or hate him, Trump is liked heavily in the Republican Party.
Absolutely. Yeah. Agreed.
DeSantis is still coming up. And I think I saw something Trump said, like, he created Santos. Like, so I
guess there could be a little bit of truth to him saying that, but it was really that Trump was finally at least the first Republican in my lifetime to step up to the plate and not be afraid to swing at anything that came his way.
Right.
Yeah,
you had so many Republicans that are just wishy-washy candidates, and then presidents just really fell apart, and we haven't had any president that was liked in the amount that Trump was. Not even Obama. I don't think, like, Obama was really popular, even semi-popular on the conservative side thing, just because, like, he's really well spoken. He's he acts very presidential. He presented himself very well. And as much of a following as I think Obama had, it's nothing like what Trump has a dedicated base to. And we can't say Biden has a dedicated base, even though he had a few more million votes better. No, he doesn't have a dedicated base because the people that voted for Biden just voted against Trump.
Yeah,
pretty much. Right.
Which is very similar how Trump even got into office, is a lot of people will just kind of look at him and like, I don't know what I'm getting with him. I know what I'm getting with her, and I don't like it. So I'm just going to take my chances, and I'm going to go with Trump. I think you're right. If Trump does run, I don't know that DeSantis will even be in the primary at that point.
Which scares me as a Republican, because then I know that this 2024 is just gonna be like 2020.
Yeah, it's gonna be
a close one again.
Yeah, and if Trump wins again, we'll probably get another 4 years of what we've already had,
which we don't need.
We do not need any more of it. The next question, because I've asked my dad this too, where we sat there trying to like ponder, like, oh, what would happen? Is who on earth would the Republican candidate run against? Because we know it can't be Biden. Kamala Harris, Democratic Party, is just
like less than Biden right now.
Yeah, she is an absolute mess. But hey, at least she's a woman. And we were like, I was like, well, could Buttigieg run? And it's like, I don't think Buttigieg would run. Like, I think honestly, Gabbard, that would have been a very good choice for them. And even Andrew Yang, when he was with the Democratic Party, might have been a better choice.
Andrew Yang was like a young Bernie Sanders. I feel like
he was still better. I would say still better
than Bernie.
Hiding his true views.
Hide behind that Asian mask.
What was his face? Beto O'Rourke down in Texas.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, he's running for governor now, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's totally gonna lose. Yeah. He's totally gonna lose.
He barely lost last time.
Well, that's because
barely
California moved to Texas and they're bringing their views there.
Yes, they did. Texans were very unhappy. I don't think we talked about this. I'm local. A native Texan, so
I'm sorry about your state.
it's in a rough place, and it's like I love people down there. There's a lot of people that I love, and even when they have different views, even they are not liking all the baggage that Californians tend to bring with them when they move to Texas, and they're just like, why are you coming here and voting the exact same way that you did, and bringing the exact same type of people in to start really just messing some stuff up. You left one of the highest tax states in the country with some of the highest rates of homelessness, and just everything about California it's like, and it's a gorgeous state. Don't get me wrong. It's a gorgeous state. And a lot of the people that I meet out there are fantastic, but I don't understand the policies they put in place there. And they're turning around doing the same thing in Texas. If I remember, it was like 51-49. That's how close it was.
Yeah, it was a close one.
Was this for governor?
It was for, I thought it was against Ted Cruz.
Yeah, it was against Cruz.
It was a close one.
No, that's senator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And Cruz
running for governor.
barely won.
I was talking just about, I thought Abbott, like the last time he ran, that he did really well and kind of blew the guy out of the water.
Abbott might be liked more than Cruz is. Cruz is not completely liked by Texans.
Yeah, Cruz.
Or anybody.
Yeah.
Cruz, because he ran in 2016. Well, he tried to run in 2016. And then it was DeSantis, Rubio,
Jeb.
Trump, and who?
Jeb Bush.
Oh, I completely forgot that he existed. Yes, Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
That's the problem with Jeb. Nobody knows he exists.
Lindsey Graham ran too.
I don't
he
like.
got like 1%.
I do not like. I've decided he's too squishy for me. I don't like Lindsey Graham an awful lot.
I don't even know what happened to Rubio at this point.
I think Trump
he took over.
Trump
Yeah.
decimated him.
Controlled
because
the
Trump.
primary.
Yeah, well, Trump made fun of him or something, or he kind
Yeah,
of
well,
went after
Rubio
him.
completely lost his cool and his
Yes.
like I'm a Christian platform when he just completely derailed
Yeah.
and started just attacking Trump with just trying to make fun of him. He basically stooped to Trump's level, which I think is what Trump was looking for, and he got it. And then Rubio was like done like a week or two later.
Yeah,
there's nothing left for him.
That's again brings my fear for this 2024 is because he just controlled the primaries.
Yeah,
So,
he's got a fighter side, and people.
He's good. He's good.
He is good. He is. He does it. He doesn't do it like a politician.
He knows how to get under you, like under your nose.
Yes. Now, let's say hypothetically Trump does somehow win, we get a complete repeat, and we're looking at another 4 years of just nonstop media coverage, just doing everything they can. Ultimately, I think that was probably the biggest culture divide we've seen. Those 4 years really split up the country.
Absolutely.
Can we go through that a second time? And what, if you've given it any thought, what do you think that even looks like? Especially now where there's already talks of peaceful divorce, civil war.
Yeah.
Cultures, like our cultures are just so different now. People are starting to lose the belief that we can even coexist.
Well, I think that actually, if we do get a repeat, it's just going to finalize the Latino and the Black communities' viewpoints, and they're going to shift fully to conservative because Trump was already winning those communities over.
Yep.
And
I remember in Florida, he did.
Yes.
He more Latino votes.
Yeah, he did.
It's just the first, I think, ever in history.
Yeah, it's pretty historic.
And played down by the media too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they don't care about that. So I think, and especially with this current administration, both those communities are having a realization of how much they're losing without having a conservative or Republican in office. So I think if we do get a repeat, it'll just solidify the Black and Latino communities coming to conservative values. And then gas prices will keep going up and stuff will happen. But it's going to be the same.
So you think the bickering will just continue?
It'll continue. There'll be something else that happens, and then they'll find it and complain about it, like Roe versus Wade. They're going to complain about it now, but then 6 months from now, they're not even going to remember.
Roe versus Wade will be an interesting variable that we didn't have back for the 2016 elections.
Yeah, I
think we've been surprised by the turnout of which people are for it and who's against it, and especially in the Christian circles, we were pretty surprised by a lot of people. Actually,
yeah, I don't know if you found the same thing, but we found that there were a lot of Christians, and I'm put in quotation, not because they're not, but I'm not sure. If you have views like that, I'm not sure what to make of it. But we're disappointed that Roe v. Wade was overturned. The thing that I was trying to figure out, like, I don't know if they know what Roe v. Wade is. Like, I'm not sure if they understand, what it's for, right?
Or what happened when it was overturned.
Yeah.
Oh no, a lot of people don't realize what this just means. It just means it's just states' rights.
Right.
That's all it means. So California, Colorado, New York, they're still going to have their abortions.
Yeah, and they could go full term. So
it's
not even a full positive to me. Is it? Okay, there's a lot of states that are either A, outright banning it, or B, restricting it, or just keeping it the same way. we do have some states that could easily take this to a full term.
Yeah.
Abortions.
Yeah, I think California already does, don't they?
I think they have like
no, I don't believe they were allowed to go to 9 months.
Some
because I found legislation that said otherwise.
Permitted. I think if there's a couple of cases there I'm pretty sure you can have one at 9 months.
Right. Not out of convenience though.
No.
Not using it as basically birth control.
For right now at least.
For right now, but that's where they could be headed essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Roe v. Wade, I think you're going to see blue states go harder and red states are going to go harder on.
There's going to be a divide.
Yeah.
Right.
And we all kind of understood, at least for people that were kind of following this, we all understood that this was going to happen, where there was going to be a divide. And if you want your abortion on demand, I think it's a horrible idea. I think it's a moral travesty. Go to California, knock yourself out. I guess have sex and then go ahead and get your abortion. Yeah. But I just feel like it was just going to separate us a bit more. And honestly, to a certain extent, I think it's better to have the states decide, and then we can fight it on the state level instead of having a bunch of judges tell us that the states have to do something.
Well, now there is no precedent, so if it does go back to the federal Supreme Court, who knows how they could rule then? Because now there's no protection, no federal precedent protecting them. So I guess that's another fear people have, is now they don't have that security, which I get. But for now, it's just going to be a states' rights.
Yeah. I think one of the more interesting things is that with the overturn of Roe v. Wade, which was based off, correct me if I'm wrong, 14th Amendment, I believe, is that because of that, there's a bunch of other things like same-sex marriage that has all been, they say has all been put into question.
Interracial marriage too.
I think Clarence Thomas was right about it though. They ruled, and I'm not a law person, so this is not going to sound super great, but from what I know,
we need a law person. Let's find a law person.
I do know a law person. I don't know if she'd be open to it, but I do know a law person. Well, we'll talk about that later. Where essentially he's like, we overturning Roe v. Wade on some sort of precedent. If we overrule Roe v. Wade on this precedent, we should do the same for these other cases, which include Griswold. And essentially, say for example, same-sex marriage is overturned on the federal level. It's the same thing. It's just like most of the states are going to keep it. And most Republicans are much more open to same-sex marriage. They've become much more liberal in that regard. So it really wouldn't be in that much danger. It's more of it's more legality than morally, we need to overturn this. He was just saying, because we're overturning Roe on this precedent, we should probably consider these cases as well that were done on the exact same reasoning. Yeah. That's as much as I know. So, but people are like, oh, it's only Clarence too. The other judges, and they did this for political reasons. They're like, hey, we're not going to overturn these other cases. We're not going to do this. And they did that because they understood the political backlash. So I think that was definitely political. But Clarence is based. Let me tell you, Clarence is awesome. Having even his documentary, I'm like, this man is so cool.
He's been through a lot.
Yeah, no, he has.
That's why when I don't know, when I hear even black people complain on a college campus, they're going to college. And saying how oppressed they are. I was watching Clarence's documentary. I'm like, that sounds like real racism and real oppression there. Not that racism does exist.
Not
systemically, but I'm sure you've experienced. I think you just said you kind of experienced a little bit of racism. It exists.
Yeah, individual, but again, it's just there's no systemic. And the people on a college campus they're complaining, but they're getting a college degree. Now, what they choose to major in is their own choice.
Yeah.
Don't complain, about the system coming against you, but you got a liberal arts degree. So
imagine using your affirmative action to get into gender studies.
Yeah.
Is that what you went for, Isaiah?
I unfortunately did get a liberal arts degree.
Well, some of them, I got a comms degree.
But you live and you learn. My wife warned me. She's like, you're going to have a hard time finding a job. And I was like, you're crazy. And now here I am.
She was right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
How
was the college experience?
Good. I can't complain because even though it was super, super liberal, it was a beautiful campus. My professors for most of the time were very respectful and neutral. surprisingly. And one of my favorite professors was apparently he was a feminist and far left, but you would have never guessed. So like I don't know. I had a great experience, at least with college. I mean, besides, COVID hijacking and then it turned virtual, but no, I enjoyed it. I mean, I think it was better for me as a conservative to actually go to a liberal school because it made me really like dig down more and realize like, no, you are absolutely conservative. And now like it just solidified it.
Yeah. Really tested your resolve.
Yes.
Especially coming fresh into conservatism at that point too.
Yeah.
I imagine.
Yeah. And it was good. And it forced me to challenge myself and other people in how to actually articulate my arguments. It's like, it's one thing to say I'm pro-life. It's another thing to explain why I am.
Right.
You're absolutely right. Because there's a lot of people who are pro-life that can't really 100% explain why. So I think even I think there's an advantage of going from being liberal to conservative because you understand those arguments so well. Right. But there is something I wanted to ask you as we're talking about college. I think you told us off air that you were an atheist.
Yeah.
And I don't know can you tell me, with conservatism, did you become a conservative first? Did you kind of come to not becoming an atheist later? I guess kind of just tell us your story about how that happened.
So I became a conservative first. It was, my arguments were always like biological and like evidence based. I really never used like a religious argument. It wasn't until about a year and a half ago that I actually converted to Christianity. So I was conservative first and I found Jesus Christ, and now I'm a Christian too. So now I'm really the stereotype.
Well, how did you find religion? How did that happen for you?
My wife.
Your wife?
My wife. Yeah, she really opened my eyes. She didn't yell at me. She didn't leave me. She was like, I'm going to pray for you. And I was like, why are you doing that? And then we talked. And then I had one buddy actually. I told my wife, well, she was my girlfriend at the time, I don't believe in the Bible. And she goes, well, there's truth in it. And I was like, no, there's not. And then a week later, one of my dear friends, out of the blue for my birthday, brought me one of my favorite books, which is Pride and Prejudice, and a Bible. And he was like, I don't know if you're going to read it, but something just told me that you need to read this. And I was like, oh, maybe I should look into this more.
Oh, wow.
maybe there is someone up above.
Yeah.
And I just converted. And now we go to church every Sunday and joined a small group, which I met you. And
right.
Now I'm a conservative Christian.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of conservatives that are Christian. But as you were talking, I was like, it sounds like he might have become a conservative first before. So you don't necessarily have to be a Christian to be conservative, because a lot of conservatives, they get kind of like they're just religious and
stereotyped.
Yeah, they are stereotypes. But you started off just plain old.
I broke a bunch of stereotypes.
Yeah, I know. You've broken quite a few there, but hopefully it's encouraging to people that you can have your own thoughts. Yeah. You can have your own beliefs.
And just through life and experience, you'll come with your own opinions. And you'll realize what you used to think was true might not be actually so much true. So
yeah, you're right. I think there's a thing with young people where it's kind of like this. I think they know so much, and they're like, I've just had this new enlightening thing. And it's like, no, this has been around for quite a while. Like, you haven't come up with anything that's super duper new. I found that, where a lot of them think that they're just super enlightened, and they're just not. I
think some of the new gender preferences are pretty new. I've never heard of those ones before.
The concept, I think.
Because it's like spectrum, sir. They're been there. We just never found them.
Yeah, there's gender is a spectrum. Is race a spectrum? That's pretty black and white.
It is if you're not white.
Come on now,
No,
just kidding.
I'm
yellow, so we call
so
those.
You can say that.
Yeah, I've always thought saying yellow is funny. For if you're half Asian and half white, you're a banana. Because you're yellow on the outside, white on the inside.
And I'm an Oreo. So.
Yep.
I'm just brown. There's too many colors mixed in there.
Yeah, we don't know.
White, brown, red, mixed them up.
Yeah.
That's what you get.
Yep. We still love you anyway. Well, I don't know about Isaiah.
He
doesn't know you, but I love you.
No, this is day 3 meeting you, and this is day 1 meeting you.
Day 1 meeting me. Yep.
But it's been good though. Like we've just had a great time talking, and I guess
now we've had a blast.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to end now. I mean, is there anything, I don't know, that you would want people to know in their political journey that you learned, like really specifically, that you think was important for you and that you think would help others?
Just you're not always right, and you need to listen. I talk a lot, so I have a hard time listening, but when I actually did listen, it changed my life completely. And now I'm a conservative, and I like to talk to people that aren't conservatives. I will always go to them first before, like, it's one thing to find other conservatives, and then you're just, like, talking about the same, like, yeah, I know. It's another thing to, like, I say, yeah, I know, but then someone says, well, no, I don't know. Yeah. So you just got to realize you're not always right, and you have to humble yourself.
Yeah. What do you think makes you so bold? Because you're very...
I don't care. I don't care. I'm fine not being liked. So.
Yeah, that's actually a big deal, because there's a lot of people that I think they're quiet on a lot of these issues, or they kind of very indirectly agree because they're scared to upset anyone.
Politics is very intimidating, especially if you don't know completely like what you believe in. And there are some people that are very intense and they're very passionate about what they believe, and you don't want to. I've had people that I've kept pretty quiet. It was like, well, they know way more than me, and if I say I disagree, it's gonna be rough. But you sometimes you just gotta just put on your big boy pants and just, come on, let's talk.
Yeah. And if you end up being wrong too, or not even wrong, but if you end up losing the argument, it's like, okay, I know that this is still morally correct, but I need to do more research, and I need to be better at this. I think that's actually, before we talked, you asked us like why we got into podcasting. And I was initially really scared to do it, because this was kind of at the aftermath of honestly just being called a lot of hurtful names. Like, people that I know they would never say it to my face, but were implying like, you're racist if you do not believe in critical race theory, if you are not an anti-racist. Yes, I hate it too. It's bad for the Black community.
It just sets you up for failure. Like, it's just, changes your mindset to just, there's no hope if you believe in it. And it's just, there's no evidence. I hate CRT.
Yeah, I pretty much hate it too, because it goes against the Black. It doesn't help the Black community at all.
Victimizes them more.
Yeah,
it's like every system is inherently racist.
Yeah,
that was one thing I liked about Ted Cruz when they were doing the confirmation hearing with Ketanji Brown, whatever her name
Ketanji
is.
Jackson.
Yeah,
Ketanji Jackson.
When he really got into her about CRT.
Yeah. Pretty dope. And I think too, it hurts a lot of white kids that think that they're this horrible racist.
Being called a racist before they even know what the word means.
Yeah. I'm kind of wondering what the psychological effects is going to be on kids that are growing up being taught you are evil because of the color of your skin.
Yeah.
There's so many other instances in history where it's like you kind of gave the same message in different ways. I mean, the message used to be to blacks is that you're not really a person because of the color of your skin.
Or Jews.
Or Jews.
Yeah.
Or unborn babies.
Yeah.
And I think that's a parallel that would be an interesting conversation.
Oh, that's the one thing I always bring up when I talk about abortion. But, I'm a white man. I'm not a white man. I'm a man, so I can't talk about much.
There's that internalized racism there. But that's what bothers me is that, like, abortion gets rid of, like, a lot more Black babies than any other race.
The founder was literally racist. She went to Klan meetings. She spoke for them. She purposely created it but no one knows that. They're not going to talk about it.
And the first set of initial centers that were put out were all put in low-income communities, which were primarily Black, especially in the cities.
Mm-hmm.
You got into the country, it's pretty mixed or majority white that's in the lower income. But it was purposeful, and they were intentionally put in those areas because she was looking to exterminate Black people.
And she's doing it. I mean, they're still killing millions. I think in New York, if you see a pregnant Black woman, she has a higher chance of her getting an abortion than she is actually
that was
birth.
Literally the exact statistic I was thinking about. And it's scary. Yeah. It's so scary. Where it's like the same people that are like, Black Lives Matter are also like, oh, whoa, is it that Roe v. Wade got overturned? I was like, you realize that
saving millions of black babies.
Yeah, it's like if you really care about black lives, you will be okay with Roe v. Wade being overturned. We are saving black lives, but now suddenly you're against it. Please be logically consistent. For me, I'm dying for it. I'm thirsty for you to have some sort of logical... I'm sorry. People just bother me that they can't be consistent.
You're not going to get it.
I know. But you seem like you have some logical consistency.
I try. I'm still learning.
Yeah, I think we all are. I mean... But having conversations with people that you disagree with is very important, which today we're not doing because we agree.
Surprise, I'm a liberal.
Oh, I'm sure if we keep going down the road, we will find stuff that we don't agree on. If we hit on specific topics and get into the like just the details and the dark details of certain things, we will find splits. You and me already know that we have some splits, and we've had some disagreements. We do, yeah,
because you can't 100% agree with everyone on everything.
No, not your spouse, not your parents, and if you do, you really should check your thought process,
right?
Because then you're most likely just thinking whatever it is that whoever it is you're looking up to tells you. I had that experience in church where it was just I did and thought whatever the pastors told me. It was like I had such an inherent faith and trust that they had my absolute best in mind. And I'm not saying that they were malicious about it, but the thought process was kind of like, they're the pastor of the church, they're the leader, they have the experience, the spiritual authority. They probably have a better idea of what's good for my life than I do.
Right. And
that was kind of the way that me and my family operated for a while until we had a church that kind of just drifted off into a different focus of Christianity that they wanted to bring to light and bring to the surface and make normal at the church. And we didn't agree with it. We didn't see the backing for it in scripture. And we're like, we got to part ways. And I think for me, it was at that point on that I was like, I cannot just do what somebody tells me to. And it sounds like for you, that moment for you was in that debate in school over gun control when you're like, I just...
He got me good.
Oh, man.
Afterwards, I was like, you won, man. He goes, oh, I know, because I know it's the truth. Like, all right.
That's bold. That's bold.
Yeah, he was a good friend.
It's bold. Maybe a little cocky.
And so you guys were friends, or hopefully, I don't know if you guys are still friends.
I don't talk to him anymore. He proved me wrong. No, no, we're still good friends.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it proves that you can still love somebody, but like disagree with them. And
yeah, but I feel like you only see that now with the conservative side, or at least the moderate liberals. Extreme left, you can't.
There are definitely moderates.
Or even extreme right, you can't. There are extremes where you can't have this dialogue. Like he said, like we would probably find something we disagree about, and that's okay. The fact that you said that's okay, that's all that matters. Like we can disagree.
Yeah, and it just, I mean, to hit on what you said is like you have people on the far left and the far right that you just cannot talk to or agree with, and I tend to find that those two sides wrap all the way around and are on the same side of the coin.
Yeah,
is like a lot of their policies come in line. I'll have to pull this video up later. I know I've sent it to you before. These two guys do a comedic skit and they're talking about like what the far left people want and what the far right want. And the far left is like, we want to split people up by their color. And then the people on the far right are like, that's exactly what we want to do. It's like, it's the same stuff. They just fall in line. And it's funny that they really hate each other. But I mean, arguably their policies, what they would want to do would look very similar, if not get them in the same bill, and you could satisfy both sides.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yep, I think that's true. There is a way to have civil discourse.
Do we need to see about ending recording because we're running out of space?
Perhaps, maybe. It's okay. You
see,
can keep
she's
going.
flipping you off.
Oh my gosh, I am. I didn't even realize.
I don't know what you did, but
here I am trying to make sure I don't say any cuss words, and you're just flipping it about.
George's just resting there.
Well, this has been a great episode. Coming up next, all the things that we disagree on. We will make a list. But I don't know if anyone has noticed lately, but we've definitely made some big changes. We have started doing video, which we're super excited about. Sadly, my video went off for this part, but we actually ended on a good spot with the video. So that will be fine.
I think that ends well. But anybody that's just listening to the audio obviously has a little bit more here. But if you were watching the video, you will see that, well, this table has gotten a lot more crowded because there's 3 of us, but there's also some new equipment. And you can't see it, but we've got lighting and obviously a camera that is here looking at us. So we are really trying to make the content more robust. We're trying to bring on more guests. Isaiah here is our first and probably would return.
I'll think about it. No,
all right.
I hope you return. I've absolutely loved talking to you. We're also coming out with more written content and articles. So stay tuned for that, for triggering opinions. Find a safe space to go read it. That will be happening probably a couple times a week with some contributing off what?
Safe space.
Safe space.
So it's a safe space to disagree and not kill each other.
Absolutely. That is a safe space that I am for. But yeah, we have a ton coming. We have a team that's growing. We're really excited. So stay tuned for our next episode on, well, we don't know yet because it'll probably be News Corner and it'll be the next breaking thing. So
most likely. We've got a lot of stuff that's, of course, happening in the world. And we actually didn't even touch on any of it today. But, next episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Isaiah, thank you so much for talking with us and hanging out with us and just talking about things that we're just giving us new insight.
Giving you guys the black card so we can talk about this
Yes.
stuff.
I wasn't going to say
it's a new perspective. It's one that we can't have.
Yeah. No, it's true. Everyone has different life experiences.
No, you can. It's okay to be different, but still have an opinion on that difference.
Amen. I agree with that.
Absolutely.
All right. Tune in next time.
Yeah. We will see you guys later.